One of the fundamental axioms in some sense of a free market system is that the only way to properly compute the value of the emerging horizon of the future is by sampling and perhaps summing the free choice of a multitude of free agents. That's actually the only way you can do it. There is no central planning way even in principle that can substitute for that. Jordan Peterson, who is known for a multitude of accomplishments, professor, social scientist, psychologist, entrepreneur, best-selling author and social media sensation, gave a very philosophical keynote talk at the Bitcoin Conference 2022. Peterson touched on a few topics dear to him such as entrepreneurship, the state of totalitarianism and the too big to fail myth. But when it came to discussing Bitcoin, Peterson took a different approach. While most of the keynote speakers delivered on the optimism and potential of Bitcoin, Peterson looked at it differently. He didn't take a pessimistic or bearish look but more of a cautionary perspective on Bitcoin. He pondered many questions such as what if this doesn't work as we planned it, and what if this is irreversible. Many Bitcoin bulls and maxies might think of Peterson's line of thinking as preposterous, but it's an interesting, somewhat outside perspective that deserves a listen. But before we listen to Peterson, make sure to hit that subscribe button and stay till the end as we give an update on the current market conditions and industry news. We can't compute the future algorithmically from the past, and so we have to use mechanisms other than deterministic algorithm to plot our way forward, and part of the way we do that is by using the entire economic system as a massive computational device that uses the array of choices that everyone makes as the mechanism that values new things as they emerge. Now central planning types, they think they can just jump over that and say, well no, we need to save the planet. Let's say that's the monsters are on that unbeaten that drum at the moment, and so they think they can subordinate that computational mechanism to some sort of ethical or procedural algorithm, and I think that's complete bloody nonsense. And worse than that, I think it's extremely dangerous, because I think all the evidence, especially from the 20th century, suggests very strongly that as soon as you subordinate free market mechanisms to central planning ethical dogmas, you catastrophically affect the economic system in a detrimental manner, but you destabilize the entire society and tilt it towards totalitarianism. And we haven't learned that yet, because there's always a new generation of people that think they're smart enough to plan the world, and Bitcoin in principle stops that from happening. It looks to me like if the Bitcoin theorists are correct and Bitcoin does take priority over the other cryptocurrencies, which we don't know if that's the case, but it could be that could take the monetary system permanently out of the hands of the political establishment of the political system. So that's not humble, but it's also, as a social scientist, that also worries me, because when you do something complex, you think this is the problem with the central planning mentality. You have this notion about how the world might be a better place, and so you do something complex like change the basis of the currency, and you think, well, here's a whole bunch of good things that will happen because of that, and you might be right about that, but there's going to be an immense number of things that happen as well that you didn't predict at all, and you have zero idea and zero evidence about whether those things would be positive or negative. And so this experiment that you're all running, I'm running, all the people who are involved in the cryptocurrency world are running, is like, well, okay, we're going to take money out of the hands of politicians, but that also means out of our hands as voting agents, right? Because it's not just politicians, that's you guys too. We have no idea what would happen if money per se was actually decentralized, and we also don't know, like, if we manage that, let's say Bitcoin attains primacy, is it even, and is it irreversible? Like, is that permanent? And then you think, well, what if it's a bad idea and it's irreversible? I'm not saying it is, and I'm not even saying I'm necessarily pessimistic about it, but the probability that you invent something extremely powerful and it only does the things you think it will do, and all those things are good, it's like, no, that never happens. Unbridled enthusiasm predicated on the assumption that your new system will only do the good things you think it will do. That's not wise. That isn't what will happen. Now this currency revolution might be proceeding in as positive a manner as we could expect, because at the moment what we have is in some sense unbridled competition between a variety of currencies. We had that before, because you could hold currency from different countries, and that was analogous in some sense sense and so that possibility existed before, but you have the cryptocurrencies now and they're competing with fiat currencies, and maybe that's the right way to settle which one is more valid, is to let the competition proceed to pace and let a multitude of people make their free choice and accept the emergent winner as the valid winner, right? And since I believe the market is the only way of making those sorts of calculations, then that seems like a fair approach. I think it's fair to me too. Well, I suspect that there'll be a lot of obstacles along the way because I think Bitcoin is now worth more than silver. I believe that's the case. I believe that's true. It's something like that, so that it's silver has been a standard of value, not as reliably as gold, but maybe second or third place, and so the fact that Bitcoin has knocked it out of that position is really something. My suspicions are that there's going to be a lot of kickback at the governmental and bureaucratic level over the next 10 years, and it's certainly possible for government agencies to put the stick in the spokes of a very well-functioning bicycle, and because Bitcoin does present a real threat to the centralizer types, they're not going to take that lying down. Now whether they can do anything about it or not, that's a different question. To watch the full interview, check out the link in the description. What do you think of Peterson's thoughts here? Leave a comment. Don't forget to subscribe and we'll see you in the next video.